Today, we have the honor of hosting a man whose name is firmly etched in the history of broadcasting and media development in Nigeria. A seasoned administrator, a visionary leader, and a pioneer whose contributions have shaped the standards of television production and public communication in this country. He is a former Director General of the Nigerian Television Authority, where his leadership left a lasting imprint on the evolution of national broadcasting. Beyond his public service, he is widely respected as a mentor, a custodian of institutional knowledge, and a man deeply committed to excellence, discipline, and nation building. His journey reflects not just professional success, but a legacy of influence, integrity, and transformative leadership. It is with great respect and privilege that we welcome to the Legacy Room, Chief Peter Igho.
Before Netflix, YouTube, and Nollywood became global, there was a generation that built Nigerian television from scratch. And at the center of it all was a visionary storyteller. The producer behind classics like Cockerel at Dawn, Village Headmaster, Tainted by Moonlight, Samanja, and quite a lot. Today, we sit with a living legend, Chief Dr. Peter Igho. Sir, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
When you hear your name being described as a legend, what actually comes through your mind?
A lot of things come to my mind, and but it's a mixed pot of all those lonely places I have been, striving to make things work. Out there in the cold, exposed to wind and weather, and sitting down in lonely editing rooms trying to put together pictures with shots under all kinds of conditions. You begin to remember all the hard work, and not just the glory of the moment of the big name you're being called as a legend and all that. It's what comes to mind is mostly all the efforts you put into making those productions that have led to the point where you are now given that title. But again, you remember also your family, and leaving your family, your children growing up without you, your wife growing up without you. Because 90% of the time you are out there on vacation, putting together productions to make people happy. But your family, children are growing up without you, and your wife is there most of the time, like a single mother bringing up the children.
That's right.
So it's a lot of mixed emotions. I'm happy. It makes me happy that all those efforts are not wasted, that they have led to this point now where I can walk and hold my head high and say, I did it. And people appreciate what I've done.
Okay. Most of your works actually had the northern background, and even from your dress code, you also look a northerner. But meanwhile, you are from Delta State. Can you just give us a little bit about your background? Great.
Well, I'm actually an urhobo. My father and my mother, both parents are urhobo, they're late now. My father was a tin miner in Jos. I was born in Jos, in present-day Plateau State. And my father was a tin miner. And so we grew up in all the mines, various mines that you put on our. And so in most of those mines where he worked as a miner, he and my mother were Iberibe, the only urhobos there. All the other workers were Hausas, Fulani, and all that. And that is why every one of us in our family, when my father gives us the urhobo name,
Yes.
the houses around also give us their
Oh, yeah.
So everybody knows Peter Igho. My urhobo name is Odewanure. My Hausa name is Garba. My eldest brother, which I'll tell you that in December last year, was Musa. The other name is Idi. I'm Garba. My immediate youngest who's later, she was Kande, and Audi, and the last born the father of Karen, who big brother, was Ahmadu. So that was the background of which we grew. So growing up in the north, growing up in Jos, most of the time my father was in camp, and depending on the season, because mining was like today you have it, now you don't, now you have it. When there's plenty, we lived in a compound where we are the only non-Igbos. So I grew up speaking Igbo. I didn't learn Igbo, I grew up speaking Igbo and Hausa. In fact, it was robots that had to learn to speak.
Yes.
Because wherever we went, when they spoke to us, we answered back in Hausa, or we used to answer back in Igbo. And they will now give us a slap and said, so we were meant to learn to speak Urhobo. And but most of those times when my father was out in the mines and things were not looking right, we had to help my mother augment the little resources she had. So what was groundnut season, we helped her sell boiled groundnut. We'll help her go buy it, wash it, and remove all the mature ones. When I see people sell groundnut now and mix them both, I laugh because I wanted my mother will kill you if she saw one on mature groundnut and the one that you have to wash it white, and then when you put it up on the table to sell, or when you hawked it, people were attracted by the quality of what they saw.
That's right.
And it was puff time, or it was chin chin, or it was egg time. And that time, the eggs that we all eat now, chicken eggs, no, they're all guinea fowl eggs. And my mother would buy 8 dozen, 12 for. We would then help boil them, and they hawk them. But we didn't just hawk them; we learned to tack them, and because we made money from. We sell my mother's eggs, so we count them for us and we sell. But we also join competitions of knacking. And if you knacked and you won, you sell and you make money. It was important because that was what made us possible to go to cinema. At that time, there were cinemas in Jos, morning, afternoon, and evenings. And we practically grew up in the cinema. Because when we finished selling, we'll go and
to watch films.
Go and watch movies. Those days, there were the Indian films. And but before the Indian films, were the American films. So all those Tarzan series, Johnny Westmoreland, Jungle Jimmy, The Forbidden Land, and Nayoka and the Tiger Men, Captain America. Those are the movies that we watched. It was years later that the Indian films came. Then we went to do Indian films, and we learned to sing Indian songs. We learned to sing them and dance them. And then the Chinese films came. And of course, but I mention all this because watching all those movies, I learned the language of the moving picture. And many of those Indian films, when they first came, had no subtitles. It was just, but we understood them. In fact, some adults would pay for us to see.
Explain.
That's the actor. That's the bad guy, Waziri. That's I will explain to them and all that. So that was the background in which I grew up in Jos. And as you can see later when we talk about it, it influenced me a lot because I fell in love with the moving picture, and I understood the language. I could tell the story and how the pictures were used to tell the story without going to a formal school to learn them.
Yes. And eventually when you grew up as a child and you went into the formal education system. Obviously, you began your professional life as a teacher before delving into television. That's a radical shift. What brought about your going into broadcasting?
Well, okay, it's a long story, but before we get to the broadcasting bit, there's growing up. After primary school, I went to secondary school in Kaduna, again in the north. And while I was there, I exhibited a lot of, they said, knowledge about literature. I was very good in literature and most of the arts subjects and all that. Well, after my secondary school, we were now in higher school to go to university. Because I had interest in television. I was dodging from school to go and appear on a musical program called In the Mood on television. And when they reported me, I had a wonderful principal, an Irish priest, who summoned me to his office. I said, "You love television so much?" And I said, "Yes." So he said, "Okay, I'll help." So he went and bought musical equipment for the school. And I learned to play the recorder, and then the accordion, and the piano, and the guitar. And I formed a group in secondary school. We called ourselves the Heart Renders. And we didn't break any heart spot. We played at our own gatherings and all that. So that began to provide flourishing of my creativity, if you like. Then when we finished higher school, there's this competition that all higher schools take part in called the Kennedy Essay Competition. And I won the award for my school. And the American Embassy gave my school 100 books. And the principal bet with me and said, "How many of them can you read?" And I promised I'll read all the 100 books, and I did. And then when we're now going to go to university, I had applied to about 4 universities: Ahmadu Bello, University of Nigeria, and the University of Ibadan. I was admitted in the 3 of them. So I discussed with someone and I chose Ibadan University. But before I was going to go, the principal said, "You can't go like that. You must organize a drama competition among the various halls. Because of your interest in literature, you're the best there." So I got together existing books, Incorruptible George, and all the books that were available at that time. Most of them printed for what they call Onitsha literature. And so we got for all the halls except one hall. I couldn't get a book for them. So I told the principal, "Look, all the other halls have except one hall." He said, "Well, write a play for them." And I said, "I've never written a play." He said, "Well, you write so well anyway, so
You develop one.
So I sat down and I wrote. As I was writing, I was handing over to that hall because they were already late, so others were already. So I finished that and I left for university. I was in university when the principal called me and said they invited people from the British Council and from the American Embassy to adjudicate, and my own play won first place. So I said, so I can write? So that gave me that confidence. In the University of Ibadan again, I wasn't the most best behaved student. Not because I was rascally, but because I'm giving you all these details because for the viewers and for those who listen, it may provide some kind of inspiration.
That's right.
Like I said, my father's business as miner, now you have it, now you don't. When I entered, he had, and I was in the first year. By second year, nobody was coming in. So I had to squat with some of my colleagues there. And in squatting, when it came time for dinner or lunch, and I didn't have a bill ticket, we wait outside. When they go in and they can smuggle out the ticket for me, then I'll be able to go in to eat what they were eating. Otherwise, we'll have to go to the gates where we'll go and find amalachi to survive. But then, we would then, to survive, my friends and I would go meet these Lebanese people who are the traders in the market who sold all those materials or clothes. And they trusted, when I spoke to them in house, they trusted me enough to give the materials on credit. So we go from hotel to hotel to meet these women in the hotels who don't have the time to come to market. We go and sell to them. So that's how I was able to survive. And one of the times while we were there, they had the music society was recruiting members for their group. So I went with my recorder to there, and they will ask you to come on stage, see if you can play any instrument. So when I got up and played my recorder, and so they shortlisted me. And one of the guys who was there too, who came with his guitar. When we finished, we were in the same hall, and we then formed a group called the Q-Max. It was the first musical group in the University of Ibadan. And we were performing for lecturers, for us. We go and rent equipment, they pay us. And we get some madrasa, we're surviving, apart from selling clothes and all that. And but one of the lecturers called me and said he wanted me to participate in his, we're doing a musical, Aladdin. And he heard me sing and come and be part of it. So I did. And so I appeared on television, WLTV, that time. When they recorded that, whatever. To cut a long story short, when I finished from the university, I wrote the production play of my class the final year, and we were chosen as the best. So that then gave me the confidence that not only that I can write, and I can also act and sing, because I was the lead singer for the group. And that was the background when I left university in 1972. I was employed from the university's Public Service Commission came to employ us. And they posted me to the north. They saw my name, Peter Igho, from the south, urhobo from the south. And they will come to you and say, if we post to the north, will you go? Thinking that at the north will frighten me, not knowing that that's where we came from. That was my home, actually. So they said, we'll post it to Northwest State. And I said, if you don't post me to the north, I won't go. So they posted me to Northwest State as an education officer. Northwest State posted me to Bida, which is the present-day Niger State. But that time, Northwest was present Niger State, Sokoto State, Zamfara State, Kebbi State, all under one state. So in Bida, what I was teaching, I got to find the students were all very restless. Most of them were married. Yeah. In fact, I was some of them were my age. I was just from the university 2008, 1972. Some of them were by age. So they were dodging for. They didn't really care. They just wanted to graduate, have their certificate to go and teach. But I didn't like it, so I decided to put them together, and I formed them into a group for drama. And I used Dupe music, which is where the Bida and Nupe language, and I put together a dance drama called Ogaga Sat. We were using Nupe music and dance. When the principal saw it, he said, look, the town must see, because it's their music and it's their dance to use to produce a drama that they've never seen. So we performed for about 3 months for the whole town, for all the schools to come and see. And the principal said we must tour the state with it. So we toured with it. They got us vehicles. We went to Kaduna, it was recorded. We went to Gusto perform. By the time we got to Sokoto, the governor had heard about it and said, a young teacher had used our music and dance to create a drama. So we performed for the governor and his team, and they said, that must be the Northwest State entry for the 1974 Festival of Arts and Culture. We went and led the team and the state to the festival.
Yeah.
And out of the 12 states, 3 were the best. My play was one of the 3. So I went back to Sokoto. Heroes welcomed, they welcomed us back. But at that time, the state too was about to set up its own television. The states had broken up, and it was now Sokoto states. And they were going to start their television in 1975. So they asked me to choose whether to stay in culture, education on there, or go to television. I chose television.
Yeah.
Why? Because remember, I told you, growing up in Jos, watching all those movies, I said, that's what I want to be part of.
That's right.
My brothers came and said, why television? After all, written by, produced by, directed by, what was there? Stay where there's money, because there was a lot of money there in the culture. When I went to Lagos, but that is a perfect about culture. They gave me a lot of money. My brother saw that and thought that is where I should stay. And I said, no, it's not the money that's matter. I want to be part of this experience. So that's how, in a long way, answer your question.
Yeah,
joined television.
Television.
1975.
That was quite inspirational for me, if you ask me. And it's obvious that the teaching also shaped you by structural manifestation.
That's from the groups.
Yeah. Okay, so did you ever doubt yourself in your early years when you were beginning?
No, I mean, it was not really. because it was that I was driven. When I chose television in 1975 and we started, I was the head of drama. I was the only member of the drama. And I had to produce 2 plays every week in Hausa and the English. So we had a drama series called Pandemia, and where we told different stories about different issues in Hausa land and all that. Then I had to produce an English, also a drama. And uniquely, you must know then that because we didn't have editing facilities like we have them today, you went into your studio, prepared everything, you blocked all your actions and the rest of them. And when it was time for you to go on air, they come studio 1, we're coming to you, and you are on live. And that 1 hour, you performed your drama. No mistakes. Even if you did, you must be able to cover up because you're on air already. And we did that. We're doing that live, and for many months, until so I did that. And I wrote again because I now knew I could write. I wrote many plays at that time to register, Matter of Conscience, and all that. Then 1977, NTA was born, and all stations that belong to the various states that came under the umbrella of the NTA as NTA stations. So NTV Sokoto became NTA Sokoto. Now, and because I understood the language of the moving picture, so people wondered, I didn't have any formal training in television apart from what I said, but somehow I understood. And when in 1978, the NTA, to showcase its oneness as an organization, organized a competition among all the 12 stations in drama. I wrote, produced, and directed the entry from Sokoto called Moment of Truth. Now, to cut a long story short, they were adjudicated and we came first. So by production, we came first. So whatever doubts I may have entertained, which I never had, I now realize that yes, I knew what I was doing. I had my choice of what I wanted to do was right, and so I was like driven to continue to do it. And there were difficulties, a lot of difficulties.
Yes, we'll get to that.
Yes,
but as we move along, you will help pioneer some of Nigeria's iconic shows. Let's start with the Cockerel Dawn. At the time when most productions were studio bound, you went outdoors. Why did you take that risk?
Okay. Now, when I did Moment of Truth, the one that won
The
award, one of the scenes that blew the minds of the judges was, here we were in Sokoto in the dry season. In my play, in one of the scenes, the lead character, the lady, had been in a marriage for many years without a child. And so she felt that pressure to have a child for the husband. But the husband didn't really mind, but she was driven. And in the end, she discovered that she's pregnant. But when she goes to have the baby, there are complications. And the family doctor, who is their close friend, operates on her and she has the baby boy through cesarean. But she's told that because of the complications, she'll never have another child. But she didn't really care. After so many years of childlessness, to have this one child, whether boy or girl, for her, it was for them. So the husband, to celebrate, it has this big party. He invites his friends, foreign and all, with a businessman, and they all gather to celebrate. After the celebration, when everybody is gone, the mother discovers that the baby was not feeling well. And so they sent for the doctor, who is their family friend, to come and check what the child was going on. That temperature was getting bad and bad. The doctor comes, and they said, as he arrives to the house, say, where is Hajia, the mother? At that moment, she runs down from upstairs screaming, the child is dead. Now, as a producer, I asked myself, how do you express the pain of this woman? For many, many years, no child. Then she has the child. Then the child dies. And she's been told that she can never have another child. How do you express her pain? At that time, remember 1978, there were no professional actors. There were no actors. When for my productions, I walk down the streets, I look at people, some of my staff, I say, you'll be right for this character. I looked at them and wrote my scripts. So, and when you choose people like that, and they are working, you have to find the time where they can excuse themselves from their place of work to come and act. You are no professional actor who are just simply there to act. We chose our character from among ourselves and not created them. So, and I'd watched many of the programs at that time. And the programs before my time were the studio-based programs, Village Headmaster, Samanja, Masquerade, all studio. But I needed to externalize this woman's pain. So, I decided to use the elements. That the moment she screams and the baby is dead, I mix her sound to the sound of thunder and lightning. And you cut to the outside of the house and it's raining, heavy rain, thunder, lightning and all that. And the husband comes looking for her and he sees her, she's sitting in the rain out in the garden alone. And he goes to pick her to take her in. Now, you can't tell her tears. You got it from the rain and all that. And as he takes her in, I threw in Bongo Zikwe's
So,
What's Gonna Be is Gonna Be. What goes up must come down. What's gonna be is gonna be. And nothing you can do about it. Now, this is Sokoto. This is dry season.
yes.
How do I shoot in the rain and the storm in Sokoto? Even the actors were asking me, this is your creativity. We're in Sokoto here. We don't have a camera to shoot outside, and because all studio based. So I went to the film corps and I told them to get the cine camera. And I went to the fire brigade. I said they should lend me their fire brigade van. And they said it's a house on fire. I said no. So we brought them to the location, and I positioned one of them on the hose here, and I said, when I say action, point your hose to the top of this house. Let the boat merge. And when they did that, I had my rain.
Yes.
Because some people were asking, when you shot that in the rain, where were we standing together? Where did you not get wet? But my rain was only on the house, and we're all house here. And it was that was one of the things that blew their minds. So, and I did that because I'd grown up watching movies where market is market, the store is store. But in all our programs up to date, we were all constrained to the studio. Abe Boss bar is in one corner of the studio. Oloja of the Oja, his palace is in one corner of the studio. And I said, no. I felt stifled. I needed to move out. So that's how I started moving out gently. And so when in 1979, Obasanjo came with his Operation Feed the Nation, and NTA decided to support them, support the government, and coming up with a drama series that will help promote agriculture. Because my play, Sokoto, was the winning play, and I had shown that I could do things outside the studio, I was brought to Lagos to produce what became Kokoro, which was the first ever drama series shot outside the studio. The first ever drama series on the NTA network. The first ever drama series with its own music soundtrack.
Yeah.
The first ever drama series with its own dedicated equipment. And even vehicles, I was giving money to buy. I recall I was giving 17,000 naira. I bought 2 station wagons and a saloon brand new with 17,000 naira. So it was the first in many cases.
Yes.
And so it was an experience that nobody had had. And I pioneered that. So that's why I'm credited with having taken the drama out of the studio. And this is the background to it.
Yes, so the prelude is such exciting because imagine
a lot of
getting the rains.
Yes, and all that. That was the moment of truth. But now coming out now to shoot entirely every bit on location, every aspect. Cockradon story was agricultural story. We had to show them in the farms. We had to show the ladies by the riverside washing their clothes. We had to show the young boys playing on the field. And there was no video camera.
Yes.
As you know it today. It was only the cine camera. So I shot the first 13 episodes of Cockradon on film, 16mm. And there were no editing facilities in Nigeria at that time where to process your films. So I shoot my film, I send them to London. They process the films there and make it print rushes for me, which I don't see until I've shot. When I shoot about 4 or 5 episodes, then I travel to London to edit them. Then when you shoot on film, you're not shooting like you're shooting down with our videos where you are recording picture and sound together. No. The cine camera records only pictures. You have the audio camera, the audio system, the Polex that records all your sound, all the speeches. It's when you get to your editing room. When you finish editing the picture, you now go sit down with the sound editor who now lays all the soundtracks onto your picture. And then all those effects of footsteps, all those whatever. It was serious work. It was heavy, arduous work.
Yes, yeah.
What and nobody else had done before me. So I learned and grew up doing that. And to God be the glory, it became a big hit because this was the first time that Nigerians were seeing a drama series shot outside the studio with every aspect of it, not just an insert. And but that was when I shot the first 13 episodes, and it was very expensive, as you can imagine. Travel to London, at the cost of the film itself, the post-production and all that. The DG now called me and said, at the end of 13, said, Peter, great, you've done so well, you've done magnificently, but we can't afford to continue on film. We have to go. Luckily, the technology has come up with a camera now that you can use to shoot video that we're shooting in the studio now for portable for you to use outside. So I was sent with my cameraman to London to watch a team using what they call the EFP, electronic film gathering equipment, which was the video. And so I came back, and again I was the first to begin to shoot the video now, together with whatever now.
With sound.
With sound. This was done, we started in 1980, and that was the first time also to begin to use what we all take for granted now. All these young boys and girls see. You don't carry a camera and shoot, and you come back and edit.
Yes.
And you can sit down and see what you're shooting. But I was shooting blindly. That time when you shoot on film, you don't see what you're shooting. You just trust your cameraman and say, are you happy? And he says yes. Then you go and confirm whether, again, he's shooting it, whether the exposure was too much. You know, those days when we take pictures with those picture camera that you go to photographer to wash. Sometimes they overexposed. Sometimes that's how it was with the film at that time. But
we are where we are today as a result of your kind of ingenuity, and your movies then were more like households. You saw people wanting to go and it's time for Cockradon. 8 o'clock was a prime time and all of that. So if you were to shoot that series today, what would you do differently?
Again, it depends on what time we're looking at. Today, things are making it a little easier now. Whether it was in terms of equipment, technology has changed, has grown, and from the big, humongous cameras we had in the studios those days, we have smaller cameras now that are even more have more higher qualities than even those people that we had at that time. But so things are different. Many times people have called me to ask me to compare myself what we did in those days to what the young people are doing now. That's right. And I say it's an unfair comparison. In our own time, things were different, and now things are also different. The pressure on them is also so much. You have 1,001 channels now fighting each other for content quality and all that. In our own time, NTA was like the one-eye cyclone. We were the only game in town.
Yes.
But we had competition among ourselves, just like you saw.
Yeah, tried to be the best.
Competition. Kaduna, NTA against Sokoto, Enugu against, but we were fighting each other in terms of producing content. So there was healthy rivalry. And to let me answer that question in a tangential way. When my son started to shoot, when he came back from film school and wanted to produce his own series of programs, and he came to Abuja, I was in Abuja then, to shoot the pilot of a program. And I said, okay, I'll show these guys what our own quality of mind, like these young ones, they need to learn from us. So I sat down in a corner when they were preparing, and I saw my son begin to set up his lights, took the take color temperature of the lights and all that, set up his camera, was blocked, his ad blocked, then got his mics placed, he had and all that. When I saw all that, I just got up and went to bed. I said, these ones, there's nothing we can teach them. I just went to sleep. And then when I woke up, I heard noise about 5 a.m. Apparently they finished shooting I went to bed about 10 a.m. About 4 a.m., I heard noise. I came out. They had finished shooting, and he was not laying his tracks. He was in his edit now putting. So that's what the advantage he had. He started as a sound. So he did his sound, he did his picture correction, he did his editing, he did his directing, and he produced and directed. So in our own time, we were they called us three-legged, with the right producer and director. Now, here he was, being the lighting person, directing, doing his lighting, doing his, and doing the sound himself. Not only the picture correction, but also a sound. So the things are different, and we must give them credit for what they're doing.
Okay.
How well they're doing.
All right, as a follow-up to that, in your time, the characters in your shows represented different tribes and regions. Was that a deliberate way of nation building as compared to what we are experiencing now?
Yes, I mean, many times I just want to tell a story, and but because I wanted my stories to be universal, when I did the Hausa drama, it was for a Hausa audience and viewership. When I did the English dramas, especially later when we now went to network, I needed the characters to be national, and we took our role of enlightenment, entertainment, and education seriously. And we knew we had a role and responsibility to promote not only good morals, but also unity in the country. And I'll give an example. Apart from tribal now, the moral issue. When I did Kokra Dawn, the lead character is called Bello. I chose Bello because there are Bellos in the north, Bellos in the south. Zemaye, his wife, is a name that can come from the north and the south. I took my time to select those names. Then the character himself was a very dedicated family man with 2 children, boy and girl, and a wife. They were not rich. He had only secondary school education and worked in a factory as a hand, as a laborer packer. And lived in a face me and face you compound. Because we did that because we wanted more Nigerians to empathize with them and say, if they can do it, I can do it. If we used a big rich man and he was successful, we say, well, because he get money. So we deliberately chose somebody down there who was struggling to do that. But he was also a very strong father who wanted his children to do well and was a good husband. But in one of the episodes, when he went to town to try and get a bank loan, when he arrived in town, he meets an old friend of his, a lady, as he arrived in town from the village. And the lady says, where are you staying? He said, where have you been all these years? I thought you were married. No, I didn't get married. We got married. Marriage broke up and all that. So what are you doing now? She says, I'm managing on my own and all that. And he says, where are you staying? He said, well, he's looking for a hotel to stay because he had just arrived. And the woman said, no, why? Go and waste money in a hotel. I'm alone in my place. You can come and stay at my house. And Bello accepted and stayed in the house. When we transmitted that episode, my DG called me that he had received so many calls.
Yes.
That what is Peter Igho trying to do? The only good man in Nigeria want to now spoil him with a girlfriend. Where should we? What kind of morals are we teaching? So quickly, we have to move him away from that place. So you see how one single thing you do can touch the whole country, because many people were scandalized. The man was an honest man, a good husband, when I want to spoil him like other Nigerian men would. So we quickly moved him out of that place. So that's how sensitive people were about watched. So I knew that. So in everything we did, we made sure that it provided unity and peace. Those sensational things. We had a code of practice,
Yes.
which we adhered to deliberately. Years later, when we put Village Headmasters, Manja and Masquerade on air, in fact, an American group, MacArthur Foundation, called me to say they watched those programs and they realized how important they were, how they unified Nigeria, how they got together. And if they had any messages, they called us to put them those programs because of the sensitivity we had and the awareness of our responsibility to ensure that what we did was right. What we did promoted unity. What we did promoted peace.
That's right. All right. So quickly, I know each production had its own challenge, or rather, various productions had their challenges. What was the most difficult production challenge you faced? That's on the one side, and on the other side, did government ever influence your creative freedom moving forward?
Well, okay. Like I said, when we started, and you asked me when they call me an icon and author, what comes to mind? And I said, I think not only of the good moments or the good times and the awards and the plaques, and I also remember some of those backstories of what we went through.
Yeah.
There were 1,001 of them. But I'll give you an example. Cockcrow at dawn may have suffered because of something that happened to me. Before they took me to Lagos to start Cockcrow at dawn, I was in Argungu training the Sokoto State cultural troupe in their music and dance, and mostly Hausa music and that and all that. So I've been away from home for about 3 months when they called me to come to Lagos. So from that I went straight to Lagos. I was there for about 3 months again, putting together arranging for the project, getting the scriptwriters together. I had 4 scriptwriters, put them together to write the stories, breathe them and all that. Then fixed a date to start shooting. This was all 79, and we said January 1980, we were going to start production. So I fixed a date, but I had not gotten the houses. They just gave me money, but I've not gotten the houses because we're shooting on location, don't forget. We're going to rent houses where we're going to camp our artists. We're going to rent employed people who are going to attend to the house. We're going to go out and select the locations and all the rest of them. And I needed to do all that. But I was in Lagos. So while they were still putting together the budget, my wife went to the stage gentleman in Sokoto. So my husband had been away for 6 months.
Yeah.
Christmas is coming. And if he's not coming back, let me go home to my mother in Ilorin with my children. So the GM there called the MD in Lagos. So what is keeping Peter? And they said, okay, the budget. I said, okay, what is the budget so far? He says, okay, so they approved 50% of it. You just go and start. So, but because I've been away from home for 6 months, I flew back to Sokoto, carried my wife who was pregnant with the children, and drove all the way to Zaria and Kaduna to begin to contact the artists. Then I drove to Jos to rent the houses, have them furnished, and then because we are setting up our own camp, like a whole station, arranged for the drivers, the cooks, and all that. Then the various selections, I paid all the contacts and all that. So, and then all this time, my wife, I couldn't leave her.
Yeah.
So we now drove back to Sokoto to now go and finish and go back in a few days to start in Sokoto. But I got to Sokoto and the GM there said, you have been away for 6 months. You are the one who always does our end of year musical show. You must do that before you leave. So again, because I was so tired driving, I left the car at home and then went to the studio. Finished about 11 o'clock, got back to my house, and my car wasn't there. So I asked the security, where's my car? He said, my dad was sick and nobody to take her. So she drove herself to the hospital. So I got somebody to follow me. We drove straight to the hospital. And at the gate of the hospital, my car was parked there.
Yeah.
And so I asked the security man, they said, the woman went drive this motor to come home. She reached here. People like say she fainted. And they're going to rush her, go inside theater. Blood everywhere. So I now got to the studio, to the ward where she was admitted. She had lost the baby. All that up and down, she had a miscarriage. But I had to leave the next day. Because if I didn't leave the next day, people were already arriving in camp, and I wasn't on ground to receive them or arrange for whatever, release money to them to work. So I had to go and meet my wife at the hospital. I said, look, I know I've not been the best of husbands in terms of up and down.
Yeah.
This production that I've started with, I have a strong feeling that this production is going to be something different. It's going to be a unique. And if I don't go down and people come and everything will just scatter off, it will be difficult to put them together. So she said, I understand. So I had been away from home for 6 months. I'd carried this poor woman with her pregnancy around. She had lost her baby and I was leaving her in the hospital to go and start Kokradon. So that is the kind of backstory that people never hear about.
That's right.
They never know what we go through.
Yeah.
And these days, when you find so many people, they encounter one problem. They say, not my bad job. I beg, I know to kill myself. I beg, but I know fit to. And you understand. So you have to have an understanding wife that when I want to be to understand what it meant to me. And that's why years later, all the awards, all the glories they give me, I always dedicated to her and the children.
Yes, beautiful. And that is bringing us to the to your legacy and family now. Because I know that your son, Tosin, who is also an award-winning filmmaker.
That's right.
What was it like watching him step into the industry that you put so much effort in?
Yeah, it wasn't just like we just woke up one morning and said, okay, son, I'm leaving, I'm stepping, are you coming? It wasn't just like that. In fact, I wasn't aware. I knew that they grew up among artists because in my children's school in Lagos, when I was in Lagos, was at Drao, next door to NTA. After their school, they Mint, and then NTA. So whenever they closed, they walked to NTA.
Yeah.
And they walked among the actors. They knew all the actors, and every producer knew them. And so they grew up in that environment of Kimedia. But I didn't realize that they were influenced by it, that they wanted to do it. It was by accident, actually, when I wanted to see the then governor, Governor Bori, and with my uncle, we were having lunch when he asked me, do you have a son who is a musician? And I said, no. And he said, no. Some boys came and performed there. And when he spoke to them, one of them said, it's Tosin Igho. And when he asked him, do you know Peter? He said, yes, my father. So then I called my wife. I said, come, where's your son? He said they've traveled with some friends. They went to perform. I said, so he does me say, how would you know now? I'm the one who suffers. His room, every day, all his friends, they come to the room, they are recording day and night, every day. And so all those friends, big artists, Rezi, all those artists, many of them did their pilots in his room there. So when I heard that, I asked him to send me what he had recorded. And I sent to my friends who are in the industry, Raymond Machiku, Gerardo Pino. And when they listened to what he recorded, they said, this was professionally done. So I said, okay, fine. What do you want to do? He said he wanted to shoot a video. I said, okay, you won't know what to do? He said, yes. So he gave me a list of what he wanted, the cameras, the tracks, the trolleys, the lights. And I gave them to him. And when he shot the video, the quality was, and I said, no. He must go back to school. This was just after secondary school.
Yes.
So I took him to South Africa. He said he wanted to do that. So I took him to a film school in South Africa. And that video he shot He didn't need to do any practical. When they saw that, they said, this is great work. And they took him immediately. And by the time he finished from there, many of the artists in Nigeria are going to meet him to shoot their videos for them. I know that Daria Torade, Sami Oposio, and many of them went to him in South Africa to shoot their videos for them. But we were shooting on film.
Yes.
But when they finished, just like I was told, you can't continue on film because they're expensive. I told you, you can't continue on film. You have to go to video. At that time, there was this very, but you know, when we moved to video, the quality of video didn't quite match the quality of film.
That's right.
So the makers of video are coming up every day with technology to enhance that. And they told me that they succeeded in coming out with a camera that had almost as high quality and as film. And that was called the Red camera. So, and they had gotten in touch with the makers in America, and they had invited me to come to study on the puppet camera because they heard about his reputation in South Africa. So he went. And while he was there and came back, he called me and said, Daddy, look, I have to have this camera. So I sold my land at that time. I bought
a camera.
And with special lens, a box of lenses. It was expensive as the camera itself. To cut a long story short, by the time he came back, I used the equipment. Bank of Industry saw what he had done and gave him a grant of 40 million to shoot a movie. And so his first movie was Seven, and which had 7 nominations, the African Magic Awards. And when I followed him to go and stand by him to see the awards, it turned out that he had also planned to give me a Lifetime Achievement Award. So that night, 2 of us got the awards, and I think it was announced that we made history. Yeah, for the first time in the 7 years of the African Magic Awards, that father and son were getting awards on the same night. So that's the background how he came into.
Yes. So quickly, when you see your son win awards, what does that mean to you personally? Because it's obvious that he's made you proud. So how do you speak to that?
Well, of course, like every father, I recall that when I got that Lifetime Achievement Award, I recall that my speech then was that it is in Africa, or most part of the world, it's always a thing of pride for a father to grow up to see his children also do well. That it gave me a lot of pressure that there's not just my only biological son, but all of them in the hall who had been inspired by us. Because before then, I received some awards from Nollywood as pioneers that led to what Nollywood became Nollywood. And I was happy to see, to be alive, to see my son and all the other young ones grow up to begin to make us proud with all the quality of work they were doing, and encourage them to continue to do it, not to be deterred by what they're doing. So that's my impression when I see him. But I also take time off to, once in a while, tell him to take it easy. Don't get burnt out, because he's driven. I mean, he would be in the studio, like I said, he will finish shooting, he will go and sit down, do all the sound, then go back and do the picture correction and all that. Then and I had to tell him, don't go through what I did in terms of give time to your family. I didn't do a lot of that, much of that. And I try to balance work and family.
That's right.
But he sends me ideas, we discuss it, and we move on. We work together well. We have our workshop. His other brother, Tony, that one too, is so special effects and animation. He's also in the industry. A lot of Tosi did some series for a long time for multi-choice. He had a series called Venge that ran for ODA. And then he also did another one. It's a story, animated storytelling for children. A lot of them, Tony helped with the 2D animation. And we're working on 3D animation now, especially with AI now. Around. So we have our editing facilities and his studios in Abuja, and also in Sokoto, and not Sokoto, in Lagos. Because Tosi also has studios where they give him jobs to translate, to dub movies into different languages, French, German, Turkish, and all that. So he does all that. I'm happy to see them.
Yes.
And they take it seriously.
Yes.
Because half the time, many people think that when they see the glamour, they think that is it. But if that's the glamour, if the glamour is all you want, then it's the wrong industry.
This is the wrong industry.
You have to know that there's passion, dedication, and you have to live yourself.
Yes. Maybe the hard work. It's more of hard work. Okay, let's talk honestly now. You are a very seasoned master producer, a script writer, and director. Is today's Nollywood better or worse than your era in yesteryears?
I think I may have answered that earlier when I said that I think it's unfair to compare both.
Okay.
Take my time. When I was head of drama and in Sokoto, for example, because they believed in me.
Yeah.
But I also knew that belief didn't come easily. When I go to ask for money to produce, and I know there's no budget, I don't just say, well, there's no money, then sabi. When I'm doing a play and it requires food, I send the driver to my house. I ask my wife, is my lunch ready? She says yes. I say, give it to him. We use that on set. When I'm building my set in the studio, we started Sokoto. To talk beginning again, we were pioneers when we started NTA Sokoto, NTV Sokoto. So a lot of the things needed were not on ground. So when I build a set of a sitting room with curtains, there's no budget for curtains. I go to my house, remove the curtains from my house, and come and put them in the studio. So that was how we went. And when the management saw me doing all that, improvising, using my own things, they now felt the need to support what I was doing. And so they started giving the budget, to give me the budget for me to put it on. These days, and so at that time, to whatever I came up with an idea, they asked me, how much do you want? I built up that confidence.
Yeah.
But these days, in the same NTA now, if a young producer comes to the idea, they go to meet his manager. Manager will tell him, where's the money? To go and look for sponsorship. So the producer now is becoming a marketer. You have to go and begin to look for somebody to sponsor before it can come on air. So the environment is different. And that's why I always say that the conditions are different. And when we compare ourselves, we compare it unfavorably, unfairly. And like I said, I watched my son work and they can be dedicated, they are dedicated. Yes, there are, like in everything else, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
There are those who come into the industry believing that, oh, I saw that man, what is he eating? Eba with banga soup with fresh fish. I want the same. But you don't know his background that gives him that. So you go in there and you just want the glamour. No. So, but I've seen them also. I'm amazed at the quality of scripts that they come with. Before now, some of them we had gone through too much into copying each other to produce the same thing. And that was when in the early days of Hollywood, you saw every movie had to have a Babalao, had to have a Indibia, had to have a... And the consequence of it was that when I was in South Africa at one time, when I went to see, they were preparing for the World Cup. And we had a conference of television to prepare for the World Cup. One of the men called me and said, please, my daughter wants to come and visit her friend in Nigeria, in a place called Benin. I said, yes, it's a nice place and all that. He said, but he's worried. And my mind went to the fact that he thought because of violence. And I said, why should he be worried? Nigeria is not as bad as South Africa, because I've been in South Africa, I've been at more by armed robbers who came to attack us. And that my son had also said many times he was robbed at gunpoint. I said, Nigeria is not like that. This was many years away. And he said, no, that's not what I'm well. He said, no, it's not the violence. My daughter had been learned to shoot with a gun from the age of 6. So she can defend herself. What I'm worried about is that I don't want them to use that to do juju.
Okay.
To make money. I said, where do you get it? He said, we see it in your movies. That's all the movie. Nobody gets rich unless he does juju. No woman gets this unless she turns to a snake at night, to whatever. So that was the impression that our movies, and that's why you see we must handle whatever this moving image with what sense of responsibility. Every picture must tell a story, must be selected, must have a reason. Or sometimes they just go in the street and they shoot on the street. They see dirty gutters. They just have the character moving in their fabulous clothes, but that dirty gutter is in their background. And they ask you, if your people are dressing so well, how come they think of that dirty environment? It's because you didn't think about what? Your visual. So luckily, over the years, they have learned to shoot differently. Many of them have gone to train.
Yeah.
Many of them didn't just jump in without training. And like my son was trained, there are many of them like that who today are doing very well. And Nollywood is growing by leaps and bounds.
That's right. Okay, just quickly, before we'll let you go on this shot, somebody was saying that anything you touch, that you're a man who has a Midas touch.
Everything I touch turns
to gold. At the point you were appointed Director General of the Nigerian Lottery Board, and we are where we are today. I know you left your name in the sands of time. Can it be better? Telling us your experience quickly.
Well, okay. Like I said, maybe I think I said, I go back very quickly to see how in the mind and works. My mother, when we were growing up, when she sends us on a message, sometimes she will spit on the ground and tell you, if you don't come back in time before that spit dries up, your navel will shrink up and you will die. So don't go and be playing football. And because we believed what she told us, we'd run straight there and rush come back, and we'll be looking to the hospital and it will still be fresh. What we didn't know then was that when she sees us coming, that's when she spit another one there.
Yeah.
But we believed it. And so there's something my mother did that inspired me long back. She said when I was born, that she dreamt before I was born, that I named myself. And that I said that when I come to this world, whatever I do, I'll always be ahead of others. And so my urhobo name is Odenwanure. My name has gone ahead of others. So when she told that story when I was born, my father wrote it down in this book. Whether like the hospital it was Fabu or not, it made me work hard. It made me whatever I wanted to do, to put my heart and soul, not to disappoint her. Because when I come back from school, at the primary school, and I've done well, first or second or third, and I shows you, say, I'm not surprised, you said it yourself. So I'm all through my life, everything I did, I made sure I worked and put in everything and make sure it succeeds. And so that is what has been my inspiration. When I went to the Lottery Commission, people asked me, why not NTA? Why did they go and put you? What is lottery? What they didn't know was that the moment I got to know that my name had been sent by the President to the National Assembly for screening and all that, I traveled to India. I traveled to France. I was in the US. And I studied every aspect of every kind of lottery. And so when I came back and I appeared before the Senate committee, I started talking about lottery. They were all shocked. Sir, we know you as producer and we know you NTA, but we are behind the cloud. Where you can't know about lottery like this? I said, because whatever I do, I prepare for it and do it well. And that is why when I got to the Lottery Commission, not people had not heard about it before. They just thought it was just something negative that only people in the streets should participate in. But I went on television and radio every day to promote it. And we did 4 years from 11 staff and employed over 1,500 staff. From just room and parlor, I'd opened 11 offices around the country. And I'd raised over 3.5 billion for government and empowered Nigerians with over 70 billion naira in terms of price. Because I knew the potentials of lottery. I knew the power of what lottery could do. What it did for UK, Camelot and the rest of them. For America, for all over the world, the way lotteries it played. And it has been used all over the world to raise money for good causes. And not today. 200 of the churches in America, big churches, were built with lottery money. For the Ivy League universities, Princeton, Yale, Harvard, most of their councils are built with lottery money. The academy attended by Napoleon Bonaparte, as far back as that, was built with lottery money. You know the wonders of the world. One of them, the Great Wall of China, it was built with lottery money. So Lottery has been used over the ages to raise money for good causes and to empower people. So it's a good thing today to hear that, well, federal government is no longer in charge. Every state's in charge, and I'm happy to know that our state, Delta State, also now coming up with proper laws to be able to harness this great source of revenue for the betterment of its people, for jobs, and for good causes that will reach the Deltans.
Okay. I'll just, in one word before I let you go, you have lived through the decades of change. What keeps you youthful and mentally sharp? And you wrap it up by executive summary. What advice would you give young producers who want to build a lasting legacy? And if you could speak for 25-year-old Peter Igho, what would you say?
Well, like Bongo Zikwe said, nothing good comes easy. Nothing good comes easy. This I know. Nothing good comes easy. And like I said earlier, this industry, I entered it because I grew up seeing it. But I also realized that to do what I've seen being done requires a lot of hard work and sacrifice. You can see, I practically sacrificed my family life to achieve the success I created. I'm not asking people to do that, but we must come into knowing that it's a serious job. It's not a job that you do casually and walk away. Knowledge of the job is only 50%. Ability to write, ability to produce, ability to direct is only 50%. The other 50% is the dedication and passion that you bring into what you do and the sacrifice. At no time will you get 100%. Growing up, that was my experience. At no time will you get 100% of what you need. So when young people go and meet their supervisor and say, I need this to work, and they say, we don't have it, say, well, I bet, better suit the money killer. Nobody can go. Then you never make it. Because you have to first show that you can work with the little you have, protect it, work with it creatively, know how to utilize it to be able to achieve the ultimate in terms of excellence. The difference between good and excellence is that hard work and dedication. So, hard work, passion, sacrifice, and most importantly, the knowledge that this business of broadcasting must be handled with sensitivity and seriousness. And because a powerful tool, used wrongly, it can damage the country, can damage people. Used rightly, it can enhance the quality of life for people. It can enrich their lives. And many, many years later, when they see what you've done, they will remember where they were when they grew up. When I walk into your room and people see me, are you the curated person? Because they remember where they were when they saw this point. Oh, I saw Behind the Clouds. I saw Masquerade. Even growing up myself, what inspired me was seeing those actors in Village Master, Eleimi, Zebediah, Ringori, all of them. I grew up seeing them and admiring them. And years later, when I came to work with them, I kept telling them, instead of they call me Oga, I said, no, you Oga, you now want to make me do what I do today. So, and that's what must be, recognize the talent in others. Many times, part of our problem is that many of us, we want to be the only good guy on the block. We want to be the only star. No. Part of why I'm happy today is that many out there say, Peter Igho helped us. Peter Igho introduced me. It inspired me. That gives me a lot of pleasure and happiness that inspired many others to be part of what we are doing. And so to the 25-year-old Peter Igho, to be, don't change anything in what you've done. Just be yourself, continue to do what you're doing, and you'll get to where I am today.
Oh, I'd like to thank you so much, Chief Dr. Peter Igho, the living legend. It's been exciting sitting with you and chatting with you, and I must confess that you're an interviewer's delight. The man behind the mask, nobody but it's a name, it's a brand name. I grew up hearing that name, saying it on, end credits, Peter Igho. I knew this is my brother, but I never knew someday I would have the single opportunity to see.
Fathers, when they argued why was this written and directed by money, they go there. But today, that name, Creative Producer and Directed by, has opened more doors for me
That's right.
than money.
Thank you so much. And so this is where we'll drop our conversation today. And it's been exciting sitting with the legend. These are the masters. In short, not this is the master. The man who today we're enjoying all the Netflix and of course the Nollywood and the YouTube presentation that we enjoyed today. We'll be back again some other time on the program. My name is Onometano. God bless Delta State. God bless Nigeria.